Now, let's talk about brown rice, okay? Because this is what we're focusing on, and hopefully, we want everybody to feel really encouraged when it comes to cooking rice. A lot of people are scared to make rice, okay? Because it always comes out wrong. And that's how it was, let me just personalize it. When I used to make rice, it would kind of be like, you just hope and pray, and hope it works out, and it doesn't. And then I had to realize that it's science, right? And if you just stick with the science and not the art of it, you'll be in good shape. And then from there, you can build your flavors and fix it the way that tastes a certain way. And so that's the way all rices really operate. Once you get that, you're good to go. You don't have to be afraid of it. And so we were making different rices, and the rice that we usually used a lot of was basmati rice. We loved it. It had a great texture, it had a good flavor, the aroma was good. But then we kept reading and kept doing our research, and we discovered the difference between those rices and brown rice. And again, this is a rice recipe that can apply to all rices, but this is really geared towards brown rice. And the reason why you're going to find out is when you look at the difference in a moment between the two rices. If you take a rice, for example, like jasmine rice, and I'm going to take some jasmine rice that we have here, and we use this rice occasionally, and for certain meals, especially like when Tara will make a meal that's it's an Indian meal, it's Indian cuisine. And so the flavor profile goes a lot better sometimes with the jasmine rice. And a lot of people prefer that. And you may, and that's fine. But when you look at rice like a jasmine rice, as you can see here, the color is white. And it's also, it's a very lean kind of grain, right? And so that tends to carry over when you're making it or when you're cooking with it. That texture tends to be more, desired. It's more popular. And there's nothing wrong with that alone. But, when you can do good, one of the principles we've learned here at Change Health, why not try and do better? And so that's why we got into using brown rice and incorporating that so that it would become more of the rule, and then jasmine or basmati will become the exception. Because with this as the rule, you'll see a texture difference, which is also a health benefit in difference. When you have brown rice, for example, and you take a look at the rice, and this is just regular, raw, uncooked brown rice, the color tint is brown, but more importantly than the color is the actual grain itself. The grain of the brown rice has more of the hull on it, which makes it more fibrous and which counterbalances the starch. This is a real big deal for some of you who may be trying to avoid or overcome diabetes or diabetic conditions. The issue of the sugar and the glucose, a lot of people, it's, oh, I have to say goodbye to rice. Well, it's not just that you have to say goodbye to rice. You have to say goodbye to the bad types of rice and say hello to the good ones. And what the Lord did is when he made this brown rice, he said, I'm going to put, and I want to keep the hull on it so that when our body takes it in and we eat it and digest it, to counterbalance the starch or the sugar, the Lord wraps it up in fiber that allows that fiber to have to be broken down, and it slows down or delays the release of the sugar. So if you're in that situation where you want to watch your blood sugar, you want to make sure you don't get into that category, period, brown rice is the way to go if you want to continue to have that starch component or that rice element with your meals. Not only is brown rice healthier for you, pound for pound or rice for rice, but one of the things you'll notice too, that as cheap as rice tends to be, most of the time, brown rice tends to be even cheaper than the other rices or the white rices. One of those is just, supply and demand. More people want the white rice. This bottle or bag of brown rice, we actually got it at Dollar Tree. And this is 2 pounds. So if you to break this down, of course, price per unit, at this rate, we got a pound of brown rice for 50 cents or 50 cents a pound. So if you're on a budget and you're looking for a health effective starch or something to balance the beans or to balance these new plant-based menus that you've shifted to, Brown rice is a real way to go, which is why we felt compelled. Like, you know what, this would be a good tool, a good thing to put into your toolbox or into your kitchen kit to learn how to make. So that said, we're obviously big fans of brown rice. How do you make it then? It's so easy. Normally, you would make it in a pot. You will get yourself a pot, and we're going to just start with a cup of rice. And so this whole recipe, starting from a cup, you can multiply it to where if you want to make some for you and your wife, or you're trying to cook for a whole family of 5 like we are, or even more, you just would double it or triple it. And you'll see how just 1 cup yields so much rice, right? So instead of using a pot, which you can't see, I'll use this bowl and allow you to get a peek into what we're doing here, okay? So all you want to do is you want to take your brown rice, and I'm going to give, again, at the bottom of the video, once we've edited, we'll have the full recipe, but you get to get the walkthrough, talk-through version of our cooking this. So you're going to start with, write this, 1 cup of rice, all right? So you're going to start with 1 cup of brown rice. Some people may be asking, well, does it have to be long grain, whatever? That's normally, there's a difference between wild rice and brown rice, okay? A brown rice tends to be a shorter grain. It's a fatter grain. That's what we're dealing with here. We're not talking about wild rice. We're not talking about Uncle Ben's. We're not talking about parboiled rice. That's rice that's been cooked a little bit, and then it's stopped or cooled so that when you cook it, you don't have to cook it as long. We're talking about raw brown rice, the good stuff, okay? So we're going to start with a cup of brown rice, because all it is water and rice, right? So we've got a cup of rice, and now here is the key. This is where the science kicks in. You want to have 1 3/4 cup of water. 1 3/4 cup, okay? So that's what's important. So when you're doing your multiplications, if you go to 2 cups, okay, now I'm going to go to 3.5 cups of water. If I go to 3 cups, and so forth and so on. So with 1 cup of rice, you want to have 1 3/4 cup of water. So to make sure I'm on point, instead of using the big cup here that some of you may have, the nice pretty Pyrex glass cups, I use a little one just to make sure that my math is right. So you can head over to your sink if you like, or you can fill up your big cup, save time and energy, so I'm not counting back and going back and forth to the sink. Fill this up, and so now to your pot, you want to add 1 cup of water, and then 3/4 cups of water. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. You are now in a position to make perfect rice. That's it. If you wanted to, you could put this on boil, and then once it gets to boiling, that's when you bring it down. So let me just walk you through, though, before we get there, so that you can see how easy this is, because I don't want anybody to feel intimidated when it comes to making this brown rice. So now, I've got my brown rice, and we've got our water. We're actually done, but we want to give it a little flavor. To help bring the flavor out of your rice, you want to have some salt and garlic powder, because we're just making brown rice, and then I'll show you how to make it yellow. So easy. So we're going to add some salt. As far as salt, you want to put in about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt into your brown rice. Then garlic powder, you want to add about a teaspoon of that. If you like more, go for it. If you don't like it at all, you don't need to add it. These are just flavor ingredients. They don't have anything to do with the actual cooking of the brown rice, but it will make it taste good, as far as I'm concerned. Right? So now we got our salt, we've got our garlic, and at this point, if I was going to boil this, obviously I'm not going to use a Pyrex bowl to boil. If I was going to boil this, all you have to do, give it a little stir. Some of you may want oil in your rice. Some of you may not. It's really not going to have that big of an impact on the texture of the rice. What it will impact, however, is the flavor. And what the oil will do is allow for that flavor to carry through. So if you're flavoring your rice, you probably want to have oil. If you're not flavoring it, which many people don't, and some cuisines don't require you to flavor your rice because it's depending on the flavor of what you put on it, then you probably don't need oil. Since we put seasonings in here, I am going to add a little oil. Okay? So give me a moment here. I'm going to grab our olive oil, and you can go with olive oil. I tend to go with the coconut oil. Okay, but since our coconut oil is not melted, I'm just going to use the olive for the sake of our exercise. And I'm just going to add a teaspoon of oil. All right? So remember the rule. If you're not adding flavors, don't sweat the oil. If you are going to add some flavor, you probably want to put the oil in it because it helps that flavor transfer through. All right? So now, on our pot, which again, I want you to just be able to see it. This is how the rice is going to look. What you want to do is you want to put this into your pot, which you would have from the beginning. But here is now where the fun begins. Because now that my rice and my water, 1 cup of rice, 1 3/4 cups of water, now I'm going to bring this to a boil. Now we all have different stovetops, right? And it may take different amounts of time. That's not the issue. The issue is once you get it to boil, once you see it bubbling, it's bubbling in my soul. You immediately then turn it down to low, the lowest setting on your stove, and you let it boil on that low simmer for 35 minutes. So this is literally what I do. Once we've got our ingredients mixed up, I put it on the stove and I set the oven to high, the stove to high. And we're going to get that moving, get that boiling. And once it's boiling, that's when you want to give it a stir. Because that gets the rice that may be stuck to the bottom, just in case it is, it gets that off the bottom of your pan so you got no sticky, no burning. And I'm going to bring this down all the way to my oven. It says melt. But on our oven, it may say melt, and on yours, it may say low or 1. Bring it all the way down, and then set your timer for 35 minutes on your phone or on your microwave. And when that timer goes off, you will have made perfect brown rice. What do I mean by that? What I mean is when you eat it, it's going to have a softness. When you fork it, it's going to have a flakiness. And I'm going to show you some in a second. But let me show you first how to make it yellow. It's not hard. Same brown rice, same ingredients. But if you want yellow rice, all you have to do is add some yellow to it. And that's turmeric, ground turmeric or turmeric powder. You take your turmeric powder, same ingredients, rice, 1 cup, water, 1 3/4 cup, half a teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of garlic. To make it yellow, we're going to add a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. I love turmeric. I think it's one of the best herbs. I highly recommend it. We enjoy eating it when they don't see the big turmeric sticks. They don't mind so much when I put in the powder. But add a half to a teaspoon. I'm going to add in a half teaspoon of turmeric powder. And what it's going to do is it's going to yellow our water up. I'm going to let you see that because color is always fun. Color is always cool. This is how it looks in the pot. Okay? So the water looks a little yellow, so you don't have to be scared just in case you've never used turmeric before. It's great because what this is going to do is going to add all of those powerful antioxidant flavors and properties to the rice. And I'm going to bring that to a boil. And once I'm at a boil, that's right. I'm going to bring this all the way down to the lowest low, set our timer for 35 minutes, and then we'll be ready in 35 minutes for our own brown rice. If you want to go to the next level, want to add a little bonus, give it more of an ethnic flair and go another direction, you can add your own coconut milk to your water. But remember, your water portion is still going to stay at 1 3/4 cup of water and coconut milk or just water. So if you want to add an ethnic flair to it, you want to make it a little bit more Caribbean, make it more Indian, you would add coconut milk to your milk. And that's going to give it a fuller flavor, and it really tastes good. Now, you can make that yellow or brown. It doesn't matter. The coconut milk is just another component to add another layer of flavor to it. That was the rice that we're making right now. I'm really going to make this right now. We're going to get into that after worship. But I'm going to show you the rice that I already made so that you can see the finished product. This is how rice is made. And when you look at this rice, I want you to tell me, be honest, does this look like the brown rice that you thought it was going to look like? That's brown rice. Now, again, this is yellow brown rice because we added the turmeric to it, but I want you to see what happens. This was a day old, by the way. And sometimes when you've got rice that's old or rice that's clumpy, when you have this happen, see how it's falling off the fork? And this is day old rice, which in a lot of ways sometimes can work even better for your recipes because it's had a chance for some of the moisture to evaporate. So when I'm talking about your brown rice doesn't have to be clumpy and it doesn't have to be mushy and it can be fresh and it can just fall off the fork like this and into your mouth. Like I'm gonna let some fall into my mouth right now. I guess I gotta bring the camera up a little bit. Let's see how it tastes. Mmm, it's good. It's good. It's good because you really, if you're eating this with beans or eating this with your entree, you won't really even tell as much that it's a brown rice. Brown rice, because again, it's more fibrous, the bite through it is a little bit thicker, if I guess that's the right word, than when you're biting through like a white rice. Because again, it's just starch, very little to no fiber. But with this, you get the benefit of having the rice. You don't have to worry about it slamming your glycemic index because you've got the fiber in it, and it will actually fill you up as fast, if not faster, than the other rice, which is to your benefit because if you're trying to lose weight, this is an ideal rice to eat as well because it's going to get you to that full feeling without eating as much rice. So I can't think of any other negatives other than I wish you were here with us and you could have some of this with us. So we want to encourage you, go and make your own brown rice or your own yellow brown rice and let it be a blessing to you and your family. It's affordable and it tastes good. So that's it for Change Health. I'll be sure to put this all down in the description, all your ingredients, and you can watch this through and walk it through. And I hope, let us know how your brown rice works out or how your yellow brown rice tastes. Send us a picture or at least just send us the line to say, hey, I made it. It tastes great. Or I made it. It tastes terrible. What did I do wrong? And we love to help you out there. So there's brown rice. Stand by. We're going to listen to another selection, and then we're going to go ahead and transition into our worship for the afternoon.